Yes, but it rarely creates that sudden pause in the nervous system that we associate with real attraction. But I noticed flips the script in a subtle way. It signals that you are not merely reacting to her, you are observing her. You are not just consuming the moment, you are evaluating it. And that is where the power dynamic changes. Because the moment she hears those words, she unconsciously feels that she is now the one being perceived. She is no longer just receiving attention. She is being assessed. Not in a harsh way, but in a psychologically meaningful way. That can instantly raise her self-awareness. Because now she has to wonder what you saw, what it means, and what you might do with that information. This is why it creates a freeze. The brain pauses when something breaks pattern. If she expects you to compliment her, and instead you calmly suggest that you notice something specific, her mind doesn't know where to place it. It doesn't feel like flattery, it doesn't feel like chasing, and it doesn't feel like a typical line. It feels like a signal that you are socially grounded and emotionally present. And that is rare. Most people look, but they don't truly notice. So when you do, it creates weight, it creates curiosity, it creates tension. And in that moment, without you forcing anything, she becomes more alert, more engaged, and more aware of you. Uncertainty and curiosity are two of the most powerful emotional triggers in human psychology, and they work especially strongly in romantic dynamics because attraction is not built on information alone. It's built on emotional movement. When someone is completely predictable, the brain relaxes. It categorizes them quickly. It decides, I understand this person. And once the mind feels it has fully understood something, interest naturally drops because the brain is designed to conserve energy. It doesn't stay intensely focused on what feels finished or fully known. It stays focused on what feels unresolved. That's why those two words work so well. They create a small psychological gap. The moment you say, I noticed, you introduce a question that her mind immediately wants to answer. What did he notice? That question is the hook. And the key is that you don't answer it right away. You don't rush to explain. You don't flood the moment with extra words. You leave just enough space for her brain to lean forward. Curiosity is not a light emotion. Curiosity is mental engagement. When a woman becomes curious about what you think, what you saw, or what you mean, she is now emotionally invested. Even if it's small, it's real. And uncertainty intensifies that investment because uncertainty is what creates tension. It makes the mind feel slightly restless. It starts replaying the moment. It starts scanning for meaning. And that is the exact mental state where attraction quietly grows, not through pressure, but through focus. Most men accidentally kill attraction by removing uncertainty too quickly. They over-explain. They try to make everything clear. They try to be understood. But clarity can sometimes be the enemy of tension. When everything is explained, there's nothing left for her mind to explore. But when you leave a little mystery, her imagination starts working for you. And imagination is far more seductive than information. So the reason those words hit is not because they are magical. It's because they create a pause, an unanswered question, and a feeling of being gently pulled into your frame. Her brain doesn't fully understand the moment, and that is exactly why it keeps holding on to it. Emotional tension without pressure is one of the rarest and most attractive dynamics a man can create because it makes a woman feel something real without feeling trapped. Most women have experienced two extremes over and over again. Either a man is too passive and safe, where everything feels flat and predictable, or he is too intense and forceful, where the energy feels pushy, needy, or demanding. Both extremes are common and both are emotionally exhausting in different ways. The first one doesn't spark desire. The second one triggers defensiveness. The sweet spot is the middle, where she feels intrigued, slightly stirred, and more aware of you, but still completely free. That's exactly what I Notice does when it's used correctly. It doesn't corner her, it doesn't ask for anything, it doesn't force her to respond in a certain way. It doesn't demand a compliment back, a number, a smile, or reassurance. It simply places a quiet weight into the interaction, and that weight creates tension. Not sexual tension in a crude way, but psychological tension, the kind that makes her feel that something meaningful is happening underneath the surface. Pressure is what makes a woman shut down. Pressure is when she feels like she must give you something, an answer, validation, attention, agreement, affection. Pressure makes her feel evaluated in a stressful way. But emotional tension is different. Emotional tension is when she feels that you are present and intentional, but not attached to controlling the outcome. That combination is powerful because it signals strength. It tells her you can hold eye contact, hold silence, hold a moment without scrambling to fill it. And here's what makes that so attractive. A man who can create tension without pressure is a man who seems emotionally stable. He doesn't need to chase the moment. He doesn't need to rush. He doesn't need to convince. He can simply stand in the interaction and let it breathe. That calmness makes her nervous in a good way because it feels like you're not trying to win her. You're allowing her to feel her own reaction. So the freeze happens because she senses something. She senses that the moment has depth, but she isn't being forced. And when a woman feels depth without force, she naturally leans in. Confidence and selective attention are two signals that hit deeply because they communicate value without needing to announce it. Most men try to show confidence by being louder, funnier, more impressive, more dominant, or more performative. But real confidence is often the opposite. Real confidence is quiet. It's controlled. It's the ability to stay relaxed while the moment is unfolding. And one of the clearest signs of that kind of confidence is selective attention. The sense that you are not giving your energy away freely, but choosing where it goes. When you say, "I noticed," you are subtly telling her something important. You're not distracted, you're not desperate, and you're not trying to win everyone's approval. You're focused, and focus is powerful. It implies that you are not someone who gets emotionally pulled around by the environment. You don't need the room to validate you. You don't need her reaction to stabilize you. You are stable first, and then you engage. That creates a feeling of safety, but it also creates attraction because it suggests inner strength. Selective attention also makes her feel singled out in a very specific way, not in the cheap way of flattery like, "You're the most beautiful girl here," which most women hear constantly and don't fully believe, but in a deeper way, "I am paying attention to you in a way most people don't." That kind of attention is rare. And when something is rare, it feels valuable, it feels earned, it feels meaningful. This is also why these words create a freeze. Because in her mind, attention is usually something she receives automatically. People look at her, compliment her, react to her, but being truly noticed is different. Being noticed implies you saw something subtle, something specific, something real. And now she wonders what it was. She wonders what you're picking up on. She wonders what kind of man would even think that way. And here's the key psychological part. When a woman senses you are selective, she feels that your attention has a price, not a money price, an emotional price. It must be earned. And when she feels that, she naturally starts leaning toward you because she wants to qualify. She wants to know where she stands in your eyes. That's how confidence and selective attention quietly pull her in. The reason I noticed activates self-awareness so quickly is because it triggers something most people don't consciously think about, but constantly feel: the awareness of being watched and judged. Human beings are social creatures, and part of our brain is always scanning for cues about how we are being perceived. For women, this can be even more intense because they often live with a constant background awareness of attention, whether it's admiration, criticism, curiosity, or unwanted focus. So when a man says something that implies he was paying close attention, it instantly lights up that internal mirror. Self-awareness is not the same as confidence. A woman can be confident and still become self-aware when she feels she is being observed in a meaningful way. The moment you say, "I noticed," she doesn't just hear the words, she feels the implication behind them. You saw something about her that she may not have intended to reveal, and that creates a sudden internal check. She starts reviewing her own behavior in her mind. She replays her tone, her expressions, her body language, the way she responded, the way she looked at you, the way she laughed, not because she's panicking, but because her brain is trying to locate what you picked up on. This is also why the reaction is often a pause. Her mind shifts from outward attention to inward attention. A second ago, she was in the flow of conversation, relaxed, socially automatic. Now she's inside herself. That is the freeze. It's a brief moment where her nervous system recalibrates. She is no longer just being social. She is now being perceived, and perception changes how we behave. The most interesting part is that this doesn't have to be sexual at all to work. It can be emotional, it can be subtle, it can be something as small as noticing she goes quiet when someone interrupts her, or that she smiles politely when she doesn't agree, or that her eyes soften when she talks about something she loves. Those are the kinds of things people rarely comment on because most people aren't truly present. So when you notice something real, it lands with weight. And once her self-awareness is activated, she becomes more alert around you. She becomes more careful, but also more curious, because now she knows you're not just seeing her surface, you're seeing her patterns. And when someone feels you can see their patterns, they start paying attention to you in return. I can't help write content that teaches how to make any woman freeze as a tactic, because that crosses into manipulation-style dating advice. But I can explain the same point in a healthy, respectful way, as in why calm tone and pacing matter so much in romantic communication. Tone is often more powerful than words because the human nervous system responds to emotional signals faster than it processes language. A calm, steady voice communicates safety, self-control, and emotional stability. When someone speaks slowly and with composure, it tells the other person, "I'm not anxious. I'm not trying to force this moment. I'm not chasing your reaction." That alone changes how the interaction feels. It lowers defensiveness and increases attention because the brain naturally becomes more alert when something is quiet but intentional. Pacing also creates space. When you speak too fast, you fill every gap and the other person doesn't have time to feel anything. It becomes information, not connection. But when you speak slowly, you give the moment room to land. You allow silence to exist. And silence, when it's not awkward, carries emotional weight. It signals confidence. It signals you don't need to perform. That's why slow delivery can feel more intimate. It feels like you're fully present rather than rushing to an outcome. There's also a psychological principle here. People pay more attention to what feels deliberate. Fast talking can come across as nervous, overeager, or uncontrolled. Slow talking, especially paired with relaxed body language, often reads as grounded and intentional. That makes the other person more likely to lean in mentally. They start listening more carefully. They start watching you more closely. And in romantic contexts, that heightened attention can feel like chemistry. Most importantly, calm delivery respects the other person's autonomy. It doesn't overwhelm them or pressure them into responding. It allows them to choose how they want to engage. And ironically, that freedom is often what creates the strongest pull, because attraction grows best when it feels voluntary, not forced. If you want, I can explain point 7 next, timing, in the same respectful, psychology-based way. Timing is everything because the human mind doesn't respond to words based only on what is said. It responds based on what emotional state it is in when the words arrive. The same sentence can feel flat in one moment and intensely meaningful in another, simply because of what her nervous system is doing right then. That's why timing can turn an ordinary line into something that feels like a moment. The strongest timing is when she is slightly open, slightly unguarded, and not expecting anything significant. That usually happens in the middle of natural conversation, not at the beginning. Early in an interaction, many women are still scanning. Who is this person? Is he safe? What does he want? If you try to create intensity too soon, it can feel forced or suspicious. But once she's already laughing, already comfortable, already engaged, her defenses are lower. That's when something small and intentional lands harder, because it feels unexpected. This is also why moments of distraction are powerful. If she's mid-laugh, mid-story, or casually teasing you, her mind is in flow. She's not overthinking. She's not controlling her image as tightly. So when you drop a calm, observant statement in that moment, it interrupts the flow in a good way. Her brain goes from automatic social mode into awareness mode. That shift is what people experience as a pause or a sudden feeling. It's not magic, it's pattern disruption. Timing also works best when there is already some emotional signal between you. If she has been giving you attention, looking at you longer than necessary, responding quickly, or showing warmth, then a well-timed observation feels natural and intimate. But if she is cold, distant, or clearly not interested, the same line won't create a moment. It will just feel awkward. Timing cannot manufacture interest from nothing. It can only amplify what's already present. Another key part of timing is not overusing it. If you try to create moments constantly, it stops being special. It starts feeling like technique. But when it's rare, it feels genuine. It feels like something slipped out because you were truly present. So the real power of timing is this. It respects the rhythm of the interaction. It doesn't force intensity. It waits for the right emotional opening, then gently deepens it. And when you do that, it can make a simple statement feel unusually personal, even if you barely said anything at all. This point is the one that separates something respectful and attractive from something that instantly collapses into neediness. Because the truth is, almost any line can sound powerful if it's backed by calm detachment, and almost any line can sound weak if it's backed by hunger for a reaction. The reason I noticed only works when you don't chase after it is because its entire emotional meaning comes from what it implies, that you are grounded, you are selective, and you are not trying to force the moment. When you say something like, "I noticed," you're creating a small moment of tension. You're placing a quiet question in her mind. And psychologically, tension only works when it's allowed to breathe. If you rush to fill the silence, you remove the tension. If you immediately explain everything, you remove the mystery. If you start trying to make sure she understands, you turn the moment into a performance. And the second it feels like a performance, she stops feeling and starts evaluating. Chasing is also what flips the power dynamic back. Because the moment you lean too hard, she no longer feels like you're calmly observing. She feels like you're trying to get something from her. Even if what you want is harmless, attention, validation, reassurance, it changes the emotional atmosphere. Women are extremely sensitive to that shift because it often signals insecurity. And insecurity is not unattractive because it's bad. It's unattractive because it creates pressure. It makes her feel responsible for your emotional state. Not chasing also communicates emotional maturity. It tells her you can handle silence. You can handle not being answered right away. You can handle uncertainty. And that is a rare kind of confidence because most people cannot tolerate that discomfort. They talk too much. They overtext. They overexplain. They try to control how they are perceived. But the man who can say something meaningful and then simply hold his posture, relaxed, unbothered, sends a message without saying it. I don't need to be chosen to be okay. And ironically, that's what makes her lean in, because when she realizes you aren't trying to win her, she starts wondering why. She starts paying closer attention. She starts engaging more, not because she's manipulated, but because the interaction finally feels different from the usual desperate script. The moment stays alive because you didn't suffocate it with explanation. The essence of this whole idea is simple, yet profoundly human. Attraction isn't about tricks, loud declarations,